So some of you guys have been asking me on my blog what the numbers mean next to the Chinese words that I've been writing. And I'm super glad that you asked, because mostly I was writing those words down for me so that I could remember them in the future. But it's really exciting that you guys are taking an interest in that as well. It's important, I think, to realize that a lot of Chinese culture has been literally inscribed and handed down over the years through their characters and through their language. And I think that the best way to get to know Chinese culture is actually through the language. Unlike with French culture, I think the food is the best way to get to know the culture, or in other cultures it might be the religion or whatever. So in Chinese, every sound is pronounced with a tone to make a word. And it's very different from English or French or most other languages, because usually you just pronounce the word with a tone that goes with the sentence. So, for example, if you raise at the end of your sentence, it makes it sound like a question. But you can't do that in Chinese because it would change the meaning of the individual words. So in Chinese there are 5 tones, and let's go through them now. Let's use the sound ma for these examples. So with the ma said with the first tone sounds like ma, ma. It's high and flat. And that word said with that tone actually means mother. And I think it's worth noting that part of what makes learning Chinese so difficult is that this word, ma, is one of very few cognates between English and Chinese. Okay, so the second tone, marked with the number 2, obviously when I write it down on my little dictionary list, is pronounced with a rising tone. So with ma, it's said ma, ma. And that word, pronounced that way, actually means hemp, like a hemp rope. So the third tone is sort of the most complicated, but it's one that we actually use to pronounce certain words in English. For example, when you say the word will, it kind of has a little dip in it. Will, and that's exactly the way that the third tone is pronounced in Chinese. So with ma, it would be said ma, ma, and that word with that tone means horse. So even though it's just a tonal difference between ma and ma, it makes all the difference between whether you're saying your horse is really pretty or your mother is really pretty. Alright, the fourth tone, I think, gives Chinese a little bit of a loud or a harsh sound because it's said somewhat forcefully with a down tone. So with ma, it would be said ma, ma. And that word, again with the fourth tone, means to yell at someone or to curse at someone. Okay, so the fifth tone is actually not indicated with the number 5 or with any sort of accent mark if you're using the accent system instead of the number system. And that's because the fifth tone basically means that the word is untoned. For example, with ma, it's pronounced ma, ma. And so you can see it's not really high or low, or it doesn't have any sort of rising or falling intonation attached to it. And that word is actually very important in Chinese because, remember I said earlier, you can't actually raise your tone at the end of a sentence to indicate a question. You actually need to use this word, ma, to turn a sentence into a question. So you hear that word all the time. Ma, ma, ma. Okay, so that's it. Simple, right? Ma, 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 ma. That's all 5 Chinese tones. You're on your way to learning Chinese. Alright, see you soon.